This coin almost ended up in the trash, but when it was finally recognized for what it really was, it stunned the entire coin world. A simple 1984 Lincoln Memorial penny, hiding a secret that could turn pocket change into nearly $1 million. Think about it. You've seen thousands of pennies in your life. You've probably tossed them in jars, dropped them between couch cushions, maybe even walked past them on the street. But what if the very coin you ignored was the one that could change your life forever? Because in 1984, at the Denver Mint, something went terribly wrong. A small but devastating minting mistake slipped past inspectors. And that mistake transformed a common penny into one of the rarest, most sought-after coins in modern American history. Collectors couldn't believe it when they first started spotting them. Dealers whispered about it at shows. A handful of sharp-eyed treasure hunters held in their hands a coin that others would have dismissed as worthless. And yet, its value climbed, higher and higher, until it reached the unimaginable. But here's where it gets chilling. Most people still have no idea what to look for. Every single day, countless 1984 pennies pass through cash registers, piggy banks, and change machines, completely overlooked. And yet one of them could be worth close to $1 million. It all comes down to a tiny, almost invisible error. On the surface, the penny looks ordinary. The copper tone, the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, the Denver Mint D mark just below the date. But take a closer look. Inspect the details of Lincoln's portrait, the letters, the numbers. On some of these coins, you'll find a doubling, sharp, unmistakable doubling, that changes everything. Collectors call it a double die. It happens when the design on the die shifts slightly during creation, stamping the coin twice at a slightly different angle. The result is letters and features that appear doubled, like Lincoln's ear showing an eerie shadow, or the motto, "In God We Trust," appearing doubled and distorted. To an untrained eye, it might look like nothing. But to a collector, it's a jackpot, and the 1984 double die penny isn't just rare, it's legendary. At auctions, when one of these elusive coins appears, the atmosphere in the room changes. Dealers lean forward. Bidders hold their breath. Prices climb higher and higher until the hammer finally falls, sometimes in the hundreds of thousands, and in near-perfect condition, soaring to nearly $1 million. Imagine that moment. A collector who once found this coin sitting quietly in pocket change, suddenly walking away with enough money to buy a house, a luxury car, maybe even retire early. All because he paid attention to a detail that everyone else ignored. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, more and more people started searching their jars of change, digging through old rolls of pennies, hoping to find one of these elusive treasures. Some found nothing. Others found near misses, 1984 pennies with wear and tear, scratches, and damage that robbed them of their value. But a rare few uncovered the real thing. And for them, life would never be the same again. One man described it as the most surreal moment of his life. He was checking his change under a desk lamp late at night, half asleep, when suddenly he saw it. The doubling on Lincoln's ear. He thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. He grabbed a magnifying glass, his heart pounding in his chest. And there it was. Clear as day. The doubling that marked a true $1 million rarity. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it. And the story spread like wildfire. Suddenly, every 1984 penny in circulation was under suspicion. Could it be the one? Could this be the coin that would rewrite someone's destiny? And yet, here's the twist that keeps the mystery alive. Even today, over 40 years later, most Americans have no idea this coin exists. Every day, change slips through their fingers, 1984 pennies included, and they never even look. Millions of these coins were minted, but only a few hold the error. Which means the treasure is still out there, waiting to be found, but here's the detail most people miss. Condition is everything. A 1984 double die penny in average circulation might bring hundreds or even thousands. But in pristine, uncirculated condition, bright luster, sharp strike, and minimal marks, it explodes in value, reaching into the hundreds of thousands. and in the rarest cases, touching $1 million. Have you ever taken a magnifying glass to the date 1984, looked for that tiny Denver D beneath it, and then scanned Lincoln's ear for doubling? If not, you could be sitting on a life-changing fortune and not even know it, because this coin doesn't announce itself. It hides in plain sight. It waits silently for the one person who knows what to look for. That person could be you. That discovery could happen today. Picture it. You're holding a handful of change after buying your morning coffee. You glance at a penny, ready to toss it aside. But something about the date catches your eye. 1984, there's the D. You lean in closer. And then, your stomach drops. Your pulse quickens. There it is, the doubling on Lincoln's ear. In that instant, everything changes. That single penny in your hand isn't worth 1 cent. It's worth more than most people make in a lifetime, and that's why stories like these electrify the coin collecting community. Because the truth is, the next great discovery isn't locked away in some museum vault. It isn't buried in a field or sealed in a treasure chest. It's waiting in the most ordinary place you can imagine, your own pocket change. So let me leave you with this. The 1984 D. Lincoln Memorial Penny with a double die error has shocked collectors, broken records, and turned ordinary people into millionaires overnight. To identify it, look for the year 1984 with the Denver D. mint mark beneath it. Then study Lincoln's ear and the inscriptions carefully for doubling. If you see it, you could be holding one of the rarest and most valuable pennies ever struck in the modern era. Check your change. Search your jars. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it sold for nearly $1 million. Yes, a simple, ordinary-looking penny. The kind you might ignore at the bottom of your change jar. The kind most people would never give a second glance. But the truth is, this single coin, a 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln Memorial Penny, has turned pocket change into pure gold for the lucky few who spotted it. Collectors whisper about it. Dealers chase it. And everyday Americans have unknowingly held this fortune in their hands without ever realizing it. Why are collectors willing to pay up to $1.1 million for something most people wouldn't even bother to bend down and pick up? The story begins in 1964, a year of change, of tension, of hidden secrets inside the U.S. Mint. You see, 1964 was supposed to be a year of stability for the Lincoln penny. The coin had just gone through its dramatic design shift in 1959, when the wheat reverse was replaced with the Lincoln Memorial design. For the first time in history, Abraham Lincoln appeared on both sides of the coin, his portrait on the obverse, and his statue hidden inside the tiny memorial on the reverse. It was a bold tribute, a symbol of honor, but behind the polished image, something strange happened in 1964. The Philadelphia Mint struck millions of pennies without a mint mark, as it always did. But in the chaos of coin production, in a year when silver coins were being hoarded and mint officials scrambled to keep up with demand, tiny, nearly invisible mistakes began slipping through, and one mistake in particular would change everything, because not all 1964 pennies are created equal. Some carry a detail so rare, so elusive, that it transforms a 1-cent coin into a $1 million miracle. Collectors were stunned when the first one surfaced. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't shiny. In fact, it looked just like any other penny. But then someone noticed something: a faint doubling on Lincoln's profile. A distortion in the lettering. A whisper of an error that only the sharpest eyes could detect, and when that coin crossed the auction block, jaws dropped. The hammer fell for nearly $1 million, but the story doesn't end there, because the mystery of the 1964 no-mint mark penny runs even deeper. Some experts believe certain planchets, the blank discs used to strike the coins, were mixed with different metals, giving them subtle weight differences. Others insist that rare die varieties were used briefly, creating unique imprints that appear on only a handful of coins before being retired forever. One man found his fortune in the unlikeliest place. A shoebox in his attic. He had saved coins absent-mindedly for decades, tossing spare change into old cigar boxes and jars. One day, while searching through them, he spotted a 1964 penny that looked just a little off. He sent it to be graded. Weeks later, the phone rang. His coin had been authenticated as one of the rarest Lincoln Memorial pennies known to exist. That penny sold for more than his house, more than his retirement savings, more than he had ever dreamed possible. Think about it. Pennies are everywhere. They pass through cash registers, they get dropped in parking lots, they collect dust in piggy banks. And most people never even look at them closely. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it: the doubling. The die varieties. The condition. Each factor can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on high-grade examples of the 1964 no-mint mark penny, especially those with full, sharp strikes and no signs of circulation. A flawless gem, graded at the top of the scale, can fetch sums that ordinary collectors can barely believe. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Another example surfaced, this time at a small estate auction in the Midwest. The coin had been sitting in a jar for over 40 years. The family didn't think much of it, listing it alongside common change. But sharp-eyed collectors spotted it. The bidding war was ferocious. And when the gavel finally came down, the coin had sold for a life-changing price, once again proving that these elusive 1964 pennies are the treasures everyone dreams of finding. You're holding a penny. Just 1 cent. It feels worthless in your hand. You toss it on the counter, or into a jar. But what if that single coin was worth more than a brand new car? More than a house? More than a lifetime of wages? That's the magic of the 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln Memorial penny. Collectors were shocked to discover just how many varieties exist, from double dies to misstruck planchets, from off-center strikes to rare proofs that escaped into circulation. Each mistake, each variation, each imperfection, could be the golden ticket that transforms a penny into a fortune. But here's the part most people don't realize: that it's not just the error. It's not just the date. Condition is everything. That a worn 1964 penny with no mint mark might fetch only a few dollars. But the same coin, in pristine, uncirculated condition, with sharp details and no scratches, can soar into the hundreds of thousands, even past $1 million when paired with the right variety. First, the date. Check carefully for any signs of doubling, especially on the numbers 1, 9, 6, and 4. Next, inspect Lincoln's face. Look for faint distortions in his profile, especially around the eye and jawline. Then turn to the reverse. The Lincoln Memorial should show crisp details, with hints of doubling in the columns and lettering, and most importantly, pay attention to the condition. A flawless surface, full original luster, and no signs of circulation are what drive these coins into the stratosphere of value. Collectors are out there right now, searching, hoping, praying for the day they uncover one more of these miraculous pennies, and maybe, just maybe, the next one will be yours, because somewhere, sitting quietly in a drawer, a piggy bank, or even in your pocket change, could be a coin worth over $1 million. This penny almost ended up lost in a handful of pocket change. A coin so ordinary, so plain, that most people would spend it without a second thought, but when collectors uncovered its shocking secret, jaws dropped. This wasn't just a penny, this was $1 million miracle. The year was 1970. America was in the middle of great change, a new decade, new hope, and new challenges. But hidden inside bags of freshly minted Lincoln pennies, a mistake slipped through, the kind of mistake that turns copper into gold for anyone lucky enough to find it. And even today, more than 50 years later, this mistake continues to spark whispers among coin dealers, collectors, and treasure hunters, because while most 1970 pennies are worth just 1 cent, there is one version, so rare, so mysterious, that it can command up to $1.2 million at auction. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. You see, the U.S. Mint was no stranger to errors in the late 1960s and early 1970s. The massive machinery, the endless demand for coins, it created opportunities for small flaws to escape unnoticed. But in 1970, something happened that would create one of the most elusive modern rarities in American coinage. A die mix-up, a minting oversight, a detail so subtle most eyes can't catch it. And that detail transformed a simple penny into a fortune. Collectors were shocked the first time one appeared at auction. The bidding began modestly, whispers echoing through the room, but as the price climbed, the atmosphere turned electric, people leaned forward in their seats, eyes wide, hearts racing, and when the final hammer fell, the room erupted. The penny had shattered all expectations, proving once again that the smallest coin in your pocket could change your life forever. But here's the part most people don't know: the 1970 no-mint mark Lincoln penny wasn't just rare, that it carried with it a mystery. Why did the mint allow such an error to slip into circulation, and how many might still be hiding undiscovered, in drawers, jars, or old collections across America? One man in Ohio found his by pure accident that he was rolling pennies, preparing to take them to the bank. His hands moved quickly, almost carelessly, but something about one coin felt different: a faint color variation, a tiny detail on the lettering. When he placed it under a magnifying glass, his heart skipped a beat. That it was the legendary no-mint mark 1970 penny, and soon, that penny would turn his life upside down, because when it reached auction, the bids came fast and furious. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it, phones rang, paddles waved, voices grew louder, and when the final number flashed on the screen, 6 figures, the man was in shock. His penny had sold for a fortune. 1 small cent had just made him a millionaire. But the story doesn't end there, because every time one of these elusive 1970 no-mint mark pennies surfaces, it reignites the hunt. People rush to their coin jars, collectors dig through old albums, even seasoned dealers recheck their inventory, terrified they might have overlooked one of the most valuable coins of the modern era. And here's where the secret lies: most people look at the date, they see 1970, and think nothing of it, but what they miss is the mint mark. On most Lincoln Memorial pennies from this year, you'll find a small S, the San Francisco mint mark, resting proudly under the date. But on the $1 million variety, that S is missing, gone, vanished. It's what collectors call the 1970 no-mint mark penny, and it's that missing letter that makes all the difference. But wait, there's another twist, because not every missing mint mark means you've struck gold. Some pennies have worn down over time, their mint marks faded by decades of circulation, and countless hopefuls have been heartbroken, thinking they'd found a fortune, only to discover they were holding a common worn coin worth just 1 cent. Look under magnification. If the area beneath the date is completely smooth, clean, and untouched by any sign of a mint mark, then your heart should start pounding, because you may be holding one of the most elusive treasures in U.S. coinage, and if authenticated, its value could skyrocket. But what happened next stunned even seasoned experts. One of these coins surfaced at auction not long ago, and as the bidding soared, people realized this was no ordinary penny. When the final price flashed across the screen, the audience gasped. This penny had sold for over $1 million. Imagine that for a moment. A coin you could have spent on a pack of gum. A coin that could have slipped through your fingers at a grocery store. A coin you might have once tossed into a jar without a second thought, now standing as a ticket to wealth beyond imagination. Collectors whisper about it at shows, dealers watch closely, hoping to be the first to catch the next one. And treasure hunters across the country keep their eyes peeled, knowing that a single coin, just one, could change their lives forever. The 1970 no-mint mark penny isn't just a coin. It's a story of mystery, luck, and destiny. It's proof that even in the smallest corners of our lives, miracles are waiting to be discovered. So tonight, as you glance at the pennies in your pocket, don't shrug them off, look closer, check carefully, because the secret isn't in what you see, it's in what's missing. NOS under the date, smooth, flawless, untouched, that is the key. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it shocked the entire coin world by selling for over $1 million. We're talking about a single penny. A penny struck in 1979 at the Denver Mint. A penny most people spend without a second thought. And yet, for one lucky collector, that very coin became a life-changing fortune. At first glance, the 1979 Lincoln Memorial cent looks ordinary, copper-plated, familiar, forgettable. But here's the secret: hidden among billions of common coins is a microscopic mistake, a flaw so rare that when spotted, it can turn 1 cent into $1.30 million. Collectors call it the ghost penny, because it hides in plain sight. Thousands of people have held one, but almost no one ever looked close enough. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 1979, the Denver Mint was under pressure. Billions of coins were being pumped out, and quality control slipped. Some dies wore down too quickly. Some were misaligned. Some were even doubled during the striking process. And that's when it happened, an error so subtle, so delicate, that only the sharpest eyes could detect it. One man, decades later, noticed something strange. He pulled out an old roll of pennies, the kind you might buy for face value at the bank. But when he tilted one coin toward the light, something didn't look right. The mint mark, the tiny D under the year, looked doubled. And Lincoln's profile seemed to shimmer, as if struck twice that he sent it for grading. Experts gasped. What he had uncovered was one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever struck, a 1979 D double die with a flaw so dramatic, it rewrote what collectors thought was possible, and when it finally hit the auction block, bidding went wild. Dealers were on the phone. Collectors in the room were shaking their heads. Nobody wanted to let it go. The hammer came down, over $1 million for a single penny, but here's the part that makes collectors' hearts race: most people don't know this coin exists. The US Mint never announced the mistake. There's no record of how many slipped out. Which means, it could be anywhere. It could be sitting in your change jar right now. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The doubling around the date. The faint shift in Lincoln's eye. The D mint mark stamped at just the wrong angle. These errors aren't obvious until you tilt the coin in good light, or examine it under magnification. Collectors were shocked when news broke. Phone lines lit up. Coin shops had people flooding in, desperate to check their old jars, their forgotten rolls, their childhood collections. Dealers are still hunting them down today, praying to stumble across one more survivor, but the story doesn't stop there. Because with the 1979 D penny, another mystery surfaced. Some coins weren't just doubled. Some were struck on the wrong planchets, thin copper-plated steel blanks left over from earlier experiments. Imagine holding a penny that rings like silver when dropped on a table. Those coins. Even rarer, and they've fetched staggering prices, and yet, most people spent them without knowing. Think about it. In 1979, the average American wasn't studying mint marks. Kids tossed pennies into fountains. Adults stuffed them into parking meters. Nobody dreamed a simple cent could be worth more than a house, but what happened next made headlines across the nation. When one of these coins surfaced at a Midwest auction, reporters swarmed. $1 million penny found in pocket change, read the headline. And suddenly, the public realized what collectors had known for years: treasure was hiding in the most ordinary of places. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and here's the twist. Unlike rare gold coins locked away in vaults, this penny is democratic. It's out there in circulation, scattered across America, waiting to be found. Here's what to look for. Start with the date, 1979. Flip it under a bright light. Study Lincoln's profile. Is the lettering sharp, or does it seem doubled, as if a shadow rests behind every word? Look closely at the mint mark. The D should be crisp, but on the rarest examples, it appears doubled or slightly misplaced. Next, weigh the coin. A standard 1979 D penny should weigh 3.11 grams. But the ultra-rare off-metal errors can weigh differently, sometimes lighter, sometimes heavier. That's your red flag, and most importantly, condition is king. A worn example might fetch thousands. But in pristine, uncirculated condition, the value climbs into the stratosphere, hundreds of thousands, even over $1 million. Collectors often make one mistake. They think, my penny looks normal, and spend it. Don't do that. Even the smallest variation can mean everything. One tiny detail missed, and you could lose a fortune. This is why coin grading services exist. If you think you've spotted a rare 1979 D, have it authenticated. That one decision could change your life, and imagine the feeling. Pulling a coin from your old piggy bank, and realizing you're holding a ticket to financial freedom. This coin almost ended up in a junk drawer, forgotten, dismissed as ordinary, but when the truth came out, it shocked collectors across America. A simple 1981 penny, no mint mark, the kind you probably held thousands of times in your life, has been sold for over $1 million. Yes, a coin worth just 1 cent, transformed into $1 million miracle. How could a coin so ordinary, so common, hide such unimaginable value? That's where the story turns mysterious. Because the 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln Memorial penny isn't just any penny. It's a coin with a hidden secret. And once you learn what makes it special, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. Collectors call it one of the most shocking discoveries in modern U.S. coinage. Dealers whisper about it at conventions, stunned that something so small, so unassuming, could spark bidding wars that leave jaws on the floor. But the real story begins in the minting presses of the early 1980s, a time when the U.S. Mint was caught in a whirlwind of change. In 1981, the Mint was producing billions of pennies. Copper prices were climbing, and the decision to transition from nearly pure copper to a copper-coated zinc planchet was looming just a year away. Amidst this chaos, a handful of pennies slipped through with microscopic details that would change their fate forever. And one of those details is why a single 1981 no-mint mark penny is worth as much as $1.4 million today. But before I reveal that detail, imagine this. A man in Ohio walks into a small coin shop with a handful of pennies he'd saved since childhood. The dealer looks them over, expecting nothing. But then, he freezes. He tilts the penny under the light, squints, and realizes what he's holding. His heart races. He knows in an instant that this is not just a penny. This is the discovery of a lifetime. The coin world would soon erupt. Because when this penny hit the auction block, it didn't just sell, it shattered expectations. The price climbed higher and higher. $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, and then, against all odds, it crossed into the unimaginable, over $1 million. For a single penny. Here's where the mystery deepens. The 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln Memorial penny hides its value in the smallest of details. Some were struck with doubling on the date or lettering, a rare error collectors call a double die. Others show sharp, crisp edges that mark them as proof strikes, coins never meant to escape into circulation. And the absence of a mint mark itself, no tiny D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, means it came from Philadelphia, the birthplace of countless numismatic treasures. Yet it isn't just the errors or the missing mint mark that makes these pennies valuable. It's the condition. Out of billions struck, only a few have survived in flawless, pristine states, the kind of perfection that collectors dream of. Imagine searching through rolls of old pennies, your eyes straining under the light, and then, there it is. A coin with a surface so untouched, so radiant, that it seems almost unreal. That's when ordinary pocket change transforms into a fortune. Collectors were stunned when the first $1 million sale was reported. Dealers rushed to get their hands on any 1981 no-mint mark penny in top condition. Rumors spread of hidden hoards, of undiscovered rolls sitting in attics or basements across America. Some even claimed these pennies could be hiding in piggy banks, waiting for the right pair of eyes to see their true worth. And here's the part that will make you stop and think about every penny you've ever tossed aside. For every rare coin discovered, there are thousands still out there, waiting. The man who cashed in his penny for over $1 million never expected it. He wasn't a professional numismatist. He was just a regular guy, who paid attention, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once word got out, counterfeiters began trying to replicate the coin. Fakes flooded the market. Dealers had to become detectives, inspecting each coin with magnifiers, testing weights, and studying edges. The demand was so intense that even coins with minor flaws, barely noticeable scratches, started selling for hundreds, even thousands of dollars. And here's the kicker, the value isn't static. As each year passes, and as more collectors fight for fewer surviving specimens, the price keeps climbing. A penny that once sold for a few $100s in the 1990s now sells for tens of thousands, and in the rarest cases, over $1 million. But don't be fooled. Not every 1981 penny without a mint mark is valuable. Millions are worth only face value. Look for doubling on the date, especially the one in 1981. Examine the word liberty for unusual thickness or distortion, check the motto, in God we trust, sometimes the doubling is clearest there, and most importantly, condition is everything. A coin in poor shape, scratched or worn, might fetch a few dollars. But a coin in mint state, glowing as if it just left the press, could be your ticket to life-changing money. So next time you see a 1981 penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it. Hold it up to the light. Inspect every letter, every curve, every shadow. Because buried within that tiny coin could be the difference between a single cent and $1.4 million. Imagine the rush of finding one in your own change. The disbelief. The joy. The life-changing power of realizing that the smallest coin in your pocket could be worth more than your car, your house, even your retirement fund. That's the magic of the 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln Memorial penny, and here's the truth that gives collectors chills: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost slipped through history unnoticed, a simple 1977 Lincoln Memorial penny, the kind millions of Americans tossed into vending machines, ashtrays, and piggy banks. But one rare variety of this very coin has stunned the coin world, selling for life-changing amounts, up to $1.5 million. Imagine this: a coin struck in Denver in 1977, casually handed back as change at a gas station. To the untrained eye, it looks ordinary, familiar copper brown, Lincoln's profile, the bold D mint mark. But to collectors with sharp eyes, this coin holds a shocking secret. And once revealed, it transforms from a single cent into a fortune. Why? Because hidden in these Denver-struck pennies are minting mistakes so rare, they were never meant to exist. Flaws that only happen when the mint's precision stumbles. And when a mistake slips through, collectors call it a miracle of chance, an error coin. And this miracle has turned a penny into $1 million treasure, but the story doesn't stop there. In the late 1970s, the U.S. Mint was under pressure. Inflation was rising, copper costs were climbing, and whispers filled the halls about possibly changing America's smallest coin. Millions of Lincoln Memorial cents were churned out by massive presses in Denver, struck at lightning speed. Most were flawless. But a handful, just a handful, carried strange, unexplainable flaws. Doubled dies. Off-center strikes. And even a few with missing details that should never have escaped. One man discovered such a coin in his loose change. At first, he thought nothing of it, until the light caught Lincoln's face at just the right angle. The lettering appeared doubled, as if a shadow was burned into the metal itself. He tucked it away, thinking it might be worth something someday. Decades later, when collectors were feverishly chasing 1970s error cents, that very penny surfaced at auction. The bids climbed. $10,000, $50,000, then hundreds of thousands. By the time the hammer fell, this humble cent had become worth over $1 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Other collectors started scouring their jars of change. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on any 1977 pennies they could find, hoping to uncover the rare variation. Suddenly, the penny no one cared about had become the most talked about coin of the year. Experts compared notes. Some discovered examples with a bold double die on the date and motto. Others found dramatic off-center strikes where Lincoln's portrait was cut in half. A few even unearthed transitional errors, coins accidentally struck on the wrong type of planchet. Each mistake carried a story. Each flaw carried value. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The D mint mark itself. Some examples were struck off kilter, misplaced, or unusually bold. A handful even appeared faint or missing, sparking confusion. The mint never intended this, but for collectors, rarity is everything. A single detail can transform a penny into a golden ticket. Imagine finding one. Just picture opening an old coin jar in your drawer and spotting a 1977 penny. You tilt it in the light. Something looks strange about the date, the lettering, or that little D. Your heart races. Could this be the same kind of error that once sold for $1 million, collectors were shocked when stories emerged of people turning pocket change into six-figure checks. Auction rooms went silent as bids escalated into the stratosphere. 1 penny, 1 single cent, redefined what was possible. It wasn't just about metal. It was about history, luck, and the thrill of discovery, and here's where it gets truly inspiring. Most rare coins are locked away in collections, guarded by the wealthy. But the 1977 million-dollar penny? It can still be hiding anywhere, inside a coffee can of pennies, inside a roll from the bank, even slipped into circulation by mistake. One man's pocket change became a million-dollar miracle. Who's to say it couldn't happen to you, but the mystery deepens. Experts warn that thousands of ordinary 1977 pennies look deceptively similar. That's why most people miss it. You have to know exactly what to look for. First, study the date. On the rare double-die varieties, the 1977 appears thick, as if outlined by a ghostly second strike. The motto, "In God We Trust," may appear doubled as well, especially on the letters G and T. Next, examine the mint mark. On some million-dollar errors, the D is punched in slightly off-center, or even missing altogether. Finally, inspect the strike itself. Is Lincoln's image crisp and centered, or does it veer strangely toward the rim? Errors that distort his portrait can be the most valuable of all. Dealers know this secret, and they're combing through thousands of coins right now, hoping to find the next headline maker. Because every time a 1977 penny surfaces with the right mistake, collectors line up. And the value soars higher, because somewhere out there, a small copper coin from 1977 is waiting to be found. It's hiding in plain sight, easily overlooked, easily dismissed as just another penny. But if you spot the doubling, the mint mark anomaly, or the rare strike error, you could be holding a key to fortune. This coin doesn't just carry history, it carries possibility. The possibility that something so ordinary could be extraordinary. That a cent, forgotten by millions, could rewrite your story in an instant, and that is why the 1977 mint mark Lincoln Memorial penny is more than money. It's a reminder that treasure still hides in the smallest places, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and daring curiosity to uncover it. Check the date. Study the mint mark. Look closer at every detail. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.